The night air hung still over Stuttgart, cold and glassy like the surface of a windless lake. The moon had retreated behind the clouds, and the only light that escaped the shadows was the silver glow from the factory's wide, panoramic windows. Inside, silence ruled. A silence broken only by the whisper of an automated arm placing a titanium exhaust tip onto a piece of sculpture that wasn't merely a car. It was 3:11 a.m., a fitting time for a machine that carried the legacy of the number 911. Somewhere beyond those walls, engineers had stopped being engineers and turned into artists. The 2025 Porsche 911 Turbo S wasn't just being assembled. It was being born. A faint hum filled the space as the first prototype rested under the floodlight. Every line of its sculpted body reflected years of evolution. Sharper, wider, more purposeful. The front fascia breathed through active air flaps, sliding open and shut like the gills of a predatory fish, deciding how much air it would allow into its titanium heart. To an untrained eye, it was just a car. To those who knew, it was a statement that power could coexist with grace and technology could pulse with life. The designers had spent nights perfecting the new ventilation openings, making them more than mere functional cuts in metal. They were expressions of movement, of width, of balance, of power pressed low against the earth. Even the oval-shaped titanium exhausts weren't placed for vanity. They were shaped to breathe efficiently, to sing with precision. Each element whispered a story of refinement. The cooling system, reimagined and reborn, pulled in air for both powertrain and brakes, managing temperatures with surgical accuracy. When the car accelerated, it didn't simply move. It inhaled and exhaled, as though alive. The active aerodynamics, a symphony of flaps, diffusers, and a tilting rear wing, responded to speed like a conductor's baton to rhythm. In one heartbeat, they cut drag to a whisper. In another, they summoned downforce to anchor the beast to the tarmac. In its most efficient stance, the drag coefficient fell by 10% compared to its predecessor, numbers that spoke not of vanity but of victory. And when the heavens opened, and rain began to dance upon the road, the wet mode engaged. The front flaps sealed shut, protecting the brake rotors from the storm. It was as if the car itself understood the language of nature, the art of restraint before release. They called it Turbonite, a color not of paint, but of purpose. Reserved for the turbo bloodline, it shimmered somewhere between gold and graphite, between elegance and aggression. The Porsche crest, the Turbo S lettering, the wheel hubs, the grille slats, all bore this signature. Under the morning light, the hue changed like mood itself, warm at dawn, cool under moonlight. It wasn't just an accent. It was a reminder. Every Turbo S carried a soul that had fought through 50 years of evolution. The HD Matrix LED headlights cut through the factory shadows like twin blades of daybreak. With every pulse of electricity, they promised precision. Behind them rested an arsenal. Sport Chrono Package, PSM, EPDCC, and Titanium Sport Exhaust System. All standard because compromise had no place here. The new exhaust system breathed through titanium veins. It wasn't just lighter, it was alive. When ignited, it sang not with noise but with emotion. A raw, throaty pulse that reached deep into the chest of anyone standing near. Hidden deep within its spine lay a marvel, the 3.6-liter boxer engine, fused with the electricity of the future. Together, they created a T-hybrid powertrain that redefined the word power. 701 horsepower, 800 newton-meters of torque. Numbers that looked sterile on paper, but on the open road, they turned into poetry. A poetry of acceleration, of precision, of controlled fury. It wasn't just faster. It was smarter. The compact 1.9 kilowatt-hour high-voltage battery, borrowed from the Carrera GTS, delivered its energy in whispers, feeding two E-turbos that waited like hounds before the hunt. These turbos weren't merely components. They were twin lungs that inhaled ambition and exhaled performance. The 8-speed PDK transmission transmitted every command through its veins, smooth, instant, and ruthless. Power flowed to the Porsche traction management all-wheel system, which clung to the earth with the devotion of a storm to the sea. 2.4 seconds. That's all it took to reach 100 kilometers per hour. 8.4 seconds to 200. And then, the horizon vanished at 322 kilometers per hour. But numbers only told half the truth. The other half lived in the feeling, that endless surge as the engine roared. The rear wing tilted, the world blurred, and gravity seemed optional. There was a saying among Porsche engineers, power is useless without grace. To honor that creed, the new 911 Turbo S received the most advanced Porsche dynamic chassis control system ever made. The EPDCC, powered by the hybrid's 400-volt system, sensed motion before it happened, predicting roll, anticipating turn, commanding stability. It reacted faster than human instinct, yet never robbed the driver of connection. It didn't dominate, it collaborated. At 1,737 kilograms, the car was heavier than before, yet paradoxically lighter in motion. Every added gram had purpose, Every kilogram was muscle, not fat. The added hybrid complexity was a whisper of progress, compensated fully by the rhythm of speed. When it was finally unleashed at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, under the watchful eyes of a notary, the car didn't just race. It danced. 7 minutes, 3.92 seconds, 14 seconds faster than its predecessor, 14 seconds closer to perfection. Inside the cockpit, serenity and fury coexisted. Turbonite gleamed subtly along the door panels and dashboard edges. The steering wheel, a perfect union of leather and logic, bore the same tone, luxurious but never loud. Even the sport chrono stopwatch carried this mark, reminding the driver that time was both ally and adversary. Carbon fiber trim flowed across the cabin, woven with neodyme accents that shimmered under the cockpit lights. The perforated Racetex headliner muted outside chaos, giving the interior a cathedral-like calm. The adaptive 18-way sport seats plus wrapped around the driver like armor, bearing Turbo S, lettering stitched with devotion. The embossing across the seats and doors, a reinterpretation of the first 911 Turbo, connected past and future in a single breath. Even the seatbelts, painted in Turbonite, whispered the car's exclusivity. Every button, every contour, every sound, all designed for one singular truth, to make the driver feel. When the ignition button was pressed, the silence shattered. The engine barked awake, titanium singing its metallic hymn. The exhaust flaps opened like the throat of a dragon, releasing a sound that wasn't noise but history. Every decibel carried 50 years of racing heritage, from Le Mans to Autobahn. The hybrid motor added its own voice, not electric silence, but an undercurrent of energy, an invisible heartbeat beneath the combustion thunder. The symphony was both modern and primal, mechanical and organic. And when the driver pressed the accelerator, the world shifted. From idle to flight, it was as if time itself bent. Gears clicked with lightning precision, turbos spun with controlled rage, and the asphalt turned into a living, breathing partner. The car didn't just move forward. It lunged through space, defying air and doubt. Outside Stuttgart, the morning sun spilled over the black forest roads, carving golden paths through the mist. The 911 Turbo S glided out of the factory gates, its surface glinting like liquid metal. It was here, on the serpentine roads of Germany, that its true soul revealed itself. Every corner was an invitation, every straight a promise. The new tire generation, with its widened rear stance, bit into the tarmac, transferring power with surgical control. The steering spoke in a language only Porsche drivers understood, precise, telepathic, almost intimate. It wasn't just about speed. It was about trust. The driver trusted the car, and the car trusted physics, bending them gently, never breaking them. And somewhere between acceleration and horizon, between torque and silence, the driver felt something rare: peace. Every 911 carries the weight of its bloodline, a burden of perfection. The 2025 Turbo S carried it with elegance. It wasn't a reinvention, but a revelation, proof that tradition could evolve without surrender. The engineers who built it didn't chase trends. They chased truth. They believed that progress was not in abandoning combustion but in perfecting it, marrying it with electricity, crafting a hybrid that didn't feel like a compromise but like destiny. They called it T-hybrid. The world called it the future. In every rev, in every reflection, it carried whispers of Ferdinand Porsche's dream, to build a car that didn't just move people, but moved souls. On an empty stretch of Autobahn, the driver pressed the accelerator once more. The car responded instantly, 2.4 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour, yet it felt timeless. The rear wing tilted, the flaps adjusted, and the aerodynamics locked in perfect harmony. Wind tore at the mirrors, but the car remained stoic, its body slicing air like a blade through silk. At 322 kilometers per hour, the world became an abstract painting. Colors blurring, lines melting, reality trembling. But inside, peace. No noise, no fear, only balance. The driver smiled. The car purred. The horizon bent. And for a fleeting second, it felt like the earth itself had paused to watch, to listen, to understand that this right here was not a machine. It was a masterpiece. When the engine finally quieted and the car rolled to a stop, there was only the gentle ticking of cooling metal, a mechanical heartbeat winding down. The driver stepped out, the scent of titanium and asphalt still clinging to the air. He turned back once, looking at the car, its Turbonite crest catching the last light of dusk. There it stood, 701 horsepower of history, 800 Newton-meters of defiance, a silhouette carved by wind, fire, and dream. The world would call it the new 911 Turbo S. But to those who understood, it was something else. It was the sound of progress, the shape of passion, the heart of titanium,